All right, we're going to talk about the engine electrical system on the Saab 340. First off, with the Saab, we have something called a gas generator. Most aircraft have them, but we have a gas generator. Basically, that is the combustion section of the engine that turns the turbine, it turns the shaft that makes the propeller spin. That gas generator powers items on the accessory gearbox as it spins. This shaft is coming forward to the engine, powers some items on the accessory gearbox. Shaft comes up. This goes to the propeller gearbox assembly, which in turn downgrades the spin and attaches itself to a couple of props. They didn't send me to art school, so don't critique me on that, okay? What we're going to be talking about to start off is stuff that's on this accessory gearbox, things that are being turned. And so right here, we'll just call it A, and we'll move down here to the accessory gearbox. Now, within this accessory gearbox, we've got 5 items that are powered by this thing. We've got the HMU. That's a pump on the engine. It's a high pressure fuel pump. We have O for oil pump. We have M for main fuel pump. And we have E for engine alternator, the electrical stuff that's produced by the engine. And finally, we have a SG or starter generator. It's a device that has 2 functions. It's a starter, and then at a certain speed, it becomes a generator. Now this alternator itself powers 3 things. We'll call this one I. That's ignition exciters. This one is the actual NG gauge. NG is the speed of the gas generator. NG. So in order for me to be able to read what's on that gas generator, I need to be able to have a gauge. I need to have a gauge. That gauge tells me how fast this thing is spinning. And finally, the third thing that the engine alternator powers, depending upon whether you're in a B model or an A model, is the ECU, electronic control unit, or for the B model and B plus, it's the DECU, D for digital. Digital obviously being better, more high tech, hi-fi, better. Now, alternator powers the ECU. The ECU powers several things. Specifically, it powers 3 gauges that we look at. First one is your torque gauge. If this fails, I lose my torque gauge. Second one, and we'll go down here, is your NP. Your propeller RPM gauge is going to go to 0. And then finally, we have ITT. This is the one that's different, however. ITT does not go to 0 in the case of a failure of an ECU. What it is we have something called a bias trimmer that takes one of 7 thermocouples which measure temperature around the engine. And instead of averaging temperatures, it gives you one temperature. It just reads off one of these thermocouples. So we no longer have an average. In addition to these things, the ECU powers the CTOT, constant torque on takeoff, APR in the B model, APR, automatic power reserve, and bottom governing. Now, it's important to note here, when we look